The alien city was alive with lights and sound. Towers of glass and steel rose into the purple sky, glowing with strange symbols. Roads were filled with floating vehicles, and creatures of all shapes and sizes moved in the busy streets. Some had wings, some had shining eyes, some walked on many legs. It was a place where humans did not belong. Yet in the middle of this alien crowd, a small human girl walked alone. She looked weak and tired, her clothes dusty and torn. She did not speak, but her eyes moved carefully, watching everything around her. The aliens noticed her. They whispered in their strange tongues. Some looked curious, others looked afraid. A few even moved away from her as if she carried danger. A human in this part of the galaxy was almost impossible. Most had never even seen one. But this child was there, walking as if she was lost. At the corner of the street, a shining carriage stopped. It was not a normal vehicle. It was a floating crystal pod, pulled by glowing creatures that looked like horses made of light. Inside sat a rich alien couple. The man was tall and thin, with silver skin and golden eyes. He wore dark robes marked with patterns of power. The woman beside him was dressed in white silk, her face hidden partly by a veil, her eyes shining with deep sadness. When the woman's eyes fell on the little girl, she froze. Her hand pressed against the glass window. Her lips trembled. "She looks like our lost daughter," she whispered. The man turned sharply, his eyes narrowing. He followed his wife's gaze and saw the child. For a moment his proud, cold face softened, but then he shook his head. "No, it cannot be. Our daughter is gone. This is only a human child." The woman's heart raced. She could not look away. The girl had the same soft hair, the same round face, the same eyes that once laughed in her palace halls. The child she had lost years ago in a terrible accident. The memory was still sharp, still burning inside her. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered again, "No, I know. Look at her. She is the same. She is our child." The man placed his hand on his wife's shoulder, trying to calm her. "You are letting grief blind you. This is a trick of the mind." But even as he said it, doubt touched his heart. The girl stopped walking. She stood in the middle of the street, surrounded by aliens staring at her. Her head lifted slowly, and her eyes met the eyes of the woman inside the carriage. The look froze both of them. For one long moment, time itself seemed to stop. The wife felt her soul pulled into those eyes. Eyes she had seen before, eyes that belonged to her little girl. The woman could not stay inside any longer. She ordered the carriage to stop and stepped out into the street. Her white dress dragged against the ground as she rushed to the child. Aliens in the crowd gasped. Some stepped back in fear. Others leaned forward to see what would happen. The girl did not move. She only watched as the woman knelt in front of her. Tears rolled down the woman's face as she reached out a shaking hand. "My daughter," she whispered, her voice breaking. The child tilted her head as if trying to understand the word. For a moment her lips moved, but no sound came. Her eyes softened, and something like recognition passed through them. The woman gasped. Behind them, the husband stepped out too, though slower. His proud face was full of conflict. He wanted to pull his wife away to protect her from false hope. But deep inside, he too felt something strange. He remembered his daughter's laugh, her touch, her voice. And now this human girl stood in front of them, carrying that same presence. The crowd around them began to whisper louder. "Is it truly their lost child?" one alien asked. "But she is human," another replied. "How can that be?" Some looked afraid, others fascinated. The story of the couple's lost daughter was well known across the city. And now this human girl stood like a shadow of that tragedy. The husband finally spoke, his voice firm. "We must leave. This is dangerous." He touched his wife's arm. "If the council learns of this, they will not forgive us." But the wife pulled away, still staring at the girl. "I cannot leave her," she whispered. "Not again." The girl slowly reached out her hand. It was small, weak, trembling. The woman caught it gently, holding it tight against her chest as tears fell freely. The husband's golden eyes widened. His heart beat faster. He could no longer deny it. There was something here, something more than just a human child. The air grew heavy. The crowd grew silent. The strange bond between the woman and the girl was clear. The husband finally looked into the child's eyes, and for the first time in many years, fear touched him. Not fear of the council, not fear of the crowd, but fear of the truth. The little girl, in a soft, broken voice, finally spoke her first word. "Mother." The woman cried out and pulled her into her arms. The husband froze, his mind spinning. The crowd gasped. And above them, in the sky, the city's watch drones turned their lenses toward the scene, recording everything. Something had begun. Something dangerous. Something that could not be hidden for long. The city did not forget. Within hours, whispers of the strange encounter spread like fire. A human child, they said. A child who looked like the millionaire's lost daughter. Some called it a miracle, others called it a curse. And the council's watch drones had already sent their silent recordings into the higher chambers. But inside the tall glass palace at the edge of the city, the couple sat in silence. The girl sat with them, quiet, watching everything with wide eyes. The great hall glowed with silver light. Pillars reached to the ceiling, and the walls were covered with paintings of stars, battles, and family portraits. One of those portraits showed a smiling alien child, standing between her parents. The resemblance was impossible to ignore. The wife never let go of the girl's hand. She kept touching her face, her hair, as if afraid the child would vanish. Tears came again and again, though she tried to hide them. Her voice was soft but firm when she finally spoke to her husband. "She is ours. I feel it, I see it. She is our child." The husband paced across the hall, his dark robes dragging behind him. His golden eyes burned with worry. "You are blinded by grief. This child is human. Do you forget the law? Humans are not welcome here. To even keep her in this house is a crime." The wife stood tall, holding the girl close. "Law or no law, I will not send her away. The stars brought her back to me. I lost her once. I will not lose her again." The girl said nothing. She only looked at the pictures on the wall, stopping at the portrait of the alien child. Slowly, she walked toward it. Her small hand reached up, touching the painted face as if she remembered it. A strange silence filled the hall. Even the husband froze, his heart tightening. The wife whispered, her voice trembling, "Do you see?" She knows. She remembers. The husband clenched his fists. He wanted to argue, but the sight of the child standing before the portrait was too much. Something deep inside him stirred. Fear, hope, and an old pain he thought he had buried. At last he turned and spoke with a heavy voice. "If we keep her, we will be destroyed. The council forbids humans to live among us. They see them as dangerous. They will accuse us of betrayal. Do you want to see our family name burned? Do you want our home turned to ashes?" The wife lifted her chin. Her voice was calm but sharp like steel. "What is the use of our name, our riches, our palace if I cannot protect my own child? Let them burn it all. I will not let them take her again." The girl turned back to them, her eyes soft as if she understood their fight even without words. She walked to the wife and pressed her small head against the woman's chest. The wife wrapped her arms around her, and in that embrace was a bond no law could break. The husband closed his eyes. For a long moment he stood frozen. Then he let out a slow, painful sigh. "Very well," he said at last. "If we are to keep her, we must hide her. No one must know. Not the neighbors. Not the servants. No one." The wife smiled through her tears, holding the girl tighter. "Thank you," she whispered. But the husband did not smile. His golden eyes glowed with worry. "Do not thank me. This is not a blessing. This is danger. Every breath she takes in this city is a risk." The girl, still pressed to the wife's chest, spoke softly. Her voice was weak, but the word was clear. "Home," the wife gasped. She kissed the child's head again and again. "Yes, my love. This is your home. You are safe now." But deep inside, the husband knew she was not safe. Already the council had seen the recordings. Already the rumors had reached the ears of those who hated humans. Time was not their ally. That night, the wife prepared a room for the girl. It was the same room that once belonged to their lost daughter. She lit the lamps, brushed the dust away, and placed soft blankets on the bed. The girl walked inside slowly, her small fingers brushing across the toys, the books, the little treasures left untouched for years. She sat on the bed quietly, as if it belonged to her all along. The wife stood in the doorway, tears running freely again. "You have come home," she whispered. The husband watched from the shadows. His heart ached. He wanted to believe, but his mind screamed at him, "This is impossible. This will destroy us." When he walked away, he went not to rest but to his secret chamber. There he opened his private files, guarded by layers of codes. He searched records of the past, forbidden experiments, and hidden archives. Slowly, a dark truth began to form. Years ago, before their daughter's death, there were whispers of projects where alien and human DNA were mixed. Forbidden science. Dangerous trials. And now, staring at the files, the husband felt a cold dread. What if their daughter had not been purely of their kind? What if she had carried human blood all along? He shut the files with shaking hands. His chest felt heavy. His wife's hope, the girl's soft voice, the strange bond. It all pointed to one terrifying possibility. The girl was not just a human look-alike. She was connected to them in ways that could break the galaxy's laws. The husband looked out the window at the city lights. "What have we brought into our home?" he whispered. And outside, far above the glowing towers, a council ship turned silently in orbit, watching. The palace was silent, but silence could not hide the storm inside the husband's mind. He sat alone in his secret chamber, the glow of old files shining across his golden eyes. Page after page of hidden reports scrolled before him, written in codes only the highest in power once used. He had broken the law by keeping these records, but tonight he needed answers. The words burned him with every line. Human integration projects, hybrid trials, genetic bridges. These were the forbidden experiments hidden long ago by the council. His breath grew heavy as he read further. Some of the experiments were not done in distant labs. They were done in the very city where he lived. Families like his had been chosen, though they never knew. Children had been born carrying human DNA mixed with alien essence. His hand trembled as he read the final report. The date matched the year his daughter was born. And in the side notes, a code he recognized, his own family name. His heart stopped. The truth was sharp, cruel, and undeniable. His daughter had not been purely alien. She had been one of the secret hybrids. Half his kind, half human. He pushed back from the table, his chest tight. Memories of his little girl filled his mind. Her laughter echoing in the halls. The way she loved the smallest things. The way she sometimes fell sick in strange ways no healer could explain. Now it all made sense. She had been different, and he had never seen it. The husband covered his face with his hands. "We were lied to," he whispered. "She was never fully ours." But even as he said it, another voice spoke inside him. "She was still your child. She loved you. She called you father." A tear escaped his eye, but he wiped it away quickly. He was not a man who cried. Yet tonight his heart felt heavier than stone. Behind him, the door opened quietly. It was his wife. She had come silently, as if she knew where to find him. Her eyes glowed with sadness, but also with fire. "You found something," she said softly. The husband turned, trying to close the files, but it was too late. She had seen the words on the screen. She stepped closer, her veil brushing against the floor. Her eyes searched his face. "Tell me," she whispered. "Do not hide it from me." The husband hesitated. To speak the truth would break her heart, but to hide it would destroy her trust. At last his voice came heavy and slow. "Our daughter. She was one of them, a hybrid. Half human, half of our blood. We were deceived by the council. And this child? This girl we found in the streets. She is not just a stranger. She is bound to us by the same forbidden blood." The wife's breath caught. For a moment she swayed as if the world itself tilted. She pressed her hand to her chest, her heart racing. Tears filled her eyes again, but this time they were not only of sorrow. They were of rage. "So all these years," she whispered. "They let us believe she was gone forever. They let us bury her memory in pain. And now this child, this proof, comes back to us." The husband nodded. "If the council learns of this, they will erase us. They will not allow a hybrid child to live. They will not allow us to protect her." The wife's tears burned down her cheeks, but her voice was stronger than ever. "Then let them come. Let them burn our name, our palace, our power. I will not give her up again. She is ours by blood, by soul, by fate. They cannot take her from me." From the corner of the room, a small voice interrupted them. The girl had been listening. She stood in the doorway, her shadow falling across the floor. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark, holding both innocence and something far greater. She stepped closer, her bare feet silent against the stone. Her small hand touched the table where the forbidden files glowed. She looked at the symbols, though no one had taught her the alien language. Slowly her lips formed a word in the same tongue, clear and sharp. "Hybrid." The husband's breath froze. His wife covered her mouth in shock. "How do you know this word?" the husband asked, his voice trembling. The girl turned her eyes to him. For the first time, her voice was not weak. It was calm, steady, as if she had carried it across lifetimes. "Because it is who I am." The room felt colder. The truth had not only been found in the files, it had been spoken by the child herself. The wife fell to her knees and pulled the girl into her arms, holding her as if she would never let go. "You are mine," she whispered. "Hybrid or not, law or not, you are mine." The husband stood frozen, his heart torn between fear and love. He wanted to protect them, but he knew the council's reach was long. Already he imagined the heavy boots of enforcers storming their gates. Already he heard the cruel voice of the judges declaring them guilty. But when he looked at the girl's eyes, he saw something else: strength, power, something that could not be broken by any council. He whispered to himself, almost afraid to believe it. Perhaps she is not just danger. Perhaps she is destiny. Outside the palace, the city lights flickered. In the high towers of the council, the first warnings had already been issued. Patrols would soon arrive, but inside the palace walls, a family had been reborn in fire. Truth and forbidden love, and the girl, the hybrid child, stood quietly in her mother's arms, her eyes glowing with a light that did not belong to this world. The nights inside the glass palace grew tense. Outside, the city lights burned bright, but inside the walls, shadows carried secrets too heavy to ignore. The girl, the hybrid child, stayed close to the wife. She hardly spoke, but her presence was strong, almost unsettling. There was something in her silence, something that made even the husband pause. At first, the girl seemed fragile. She barely ate, barely slept, moving like a ghost through the great halls. But then small things began to happen, things that could not be explained. One morning, the wife cut her hand while arranging crystal flowers in a vase. She gasped as the sharp edge sliced her skin and red blood dripped down her palm. Before she could call for help, the girl appeared. She walked forward, eyes calm, and gently placed her small hand over the wound. The husband, who had just entered the hall, froze. The girl's hand glowed faintly, a pale white light spreading from her fingers. The blood stopped, the skin closed, and within seconds the cut was gone. The wife's hand was whole, as if it had never been hurt. The wife stared at her palm in disbelief. "Impossible," she whispered. Then her eyes filled with tears and she pulled the child into her arms. "A gift, you have a gift." But the husband's face grew pale. His golden eyes narrowed. "This is no gift," he muttered. "This is power. And power like this cannot remain hidden." The girl did not answer. She only looked at him with eyes too wise for her small body. For a moment he thought she was reading his thoughts, seeing his fear, touching the corners of his soul. That night, another sign appeared. The palace air systems failed in one of the chambers, leaking poison gas used for cleaning the walls. Servants panicked and fled. But the girl wandered into the cloud without coughing, without fear. She stood in the middle of the toxic mist, breathing it as if it were harmless air. When the husband found her, he nearly collapsed. "No creature of this world can survive that gas," he whispered. The girl turned to him, her eyes glowing faintly. "I am not of this world alone," she said softly. Then she walked past him, leaving him trembling. The wife saw these signs as miracles. She believed even more strongly that the child was their daughter, returned with gifts from the stars. She spoke to the girl late into the nights, telling her stories of the past, of their lost child, of the palace halls filled with laughter long ago. And though the girl never answered much, sometimes she would smile faintly as if she remembered. But the husband was restless. He could not deny the truth anymore. This girl was more than human, more than alien. She was something new, something dangerous, and the council would never allow her to live. One evening, as the sun set over the towers, painting the city in gold, the husband stood on the balcony, lost in thought. The wife came to him, her veil lifted, her eyes filled with both love and fury. "You are afraid," she said. "I see it in you. But you cannot run from this. She is ours. Whatever she is, she belongs to us." The husband clenched his jaw. "Do you not understand? If the council learns she has these powers, they will not only kill her, they will erase us too. Our name, our home, our bloodline, gone from history." The wife stepped closer, her voice sharp. "Let them erase me. Let them erase everything. I would rather burn with her than live without her." Their argument was cut short by a sound. A small voice, "Mother, father." They turned sharply. The girl stood in the doorway, her eyes glowing brighter than before. She had never called him father until now. The word froze him where he stood. The girl stepped forward, her voice calm but filled with weight far beyond her years. "I remember." The wife's heart leapt. "What do you remember, my child?" The girl's gaze drifted toward the stars outside the balcony. Pain, fire falling, but also, you, both of you. I know your voices. I know your touch. I was gone, but I was not lost. Tears fell down the wife's face. She reached for the child, holding her tightly. The husband stood stiff, his chest heavy. He wanted to deny it, but how could he? The child's words cut through every wall he had built. The girl placed her small hand on his arm. The glow spread again, and suddenly he felt warmth rushing through him, memories flooding back, memories of holding his daughter in his arms, of hearing her laughter, of seeing her run across the palace garden. For years he had buried those memories in grief. Now they returned with force. His knees almost gave way. You, he whispered. You are her. The girl's eyes softened. Not the same, but not different. I am both. In that moment, the husband finally broke. He fell to his knees before her, his golden eyes wet with tears he could not stop. The wife held them both, her arms wrapping around them as if she could shield them from the universe itself. But outside, the universe was not blind. Across the city, the whispers had become shouts. Servants had spoken of strange lights, of a child walking unharmed through poison, of wounds healing under her touch. The rumors reached the ears of the council. In the highest tower, the judges sat in silence, watching the recordings from the drones. Their faces were hard, their eyes sharp. The oldest among them finally spoke. The hybrid has awakened, and far above the city, warships began to move. The first sign came at dawn. The palace windows glowed with soft light, and the wife was dressing the girl in silken clothes when the ground trembled. A low hum filled the air, a sound no one in the city mistook. The engines of warships. The husband rushed to the balcony. His golden eyes widened at the sight. Dark ships floated above the skyline, their sharp hulls blotting out the sun. The sigils of the Galactic Council burned red across their sides. The enforcers had arrived. They know, he whispered. The wife held the girl close, her voice breaking. We must run. For a moment, the husband froze. All his life he had bowed to the council, obeyed their laws, feared their wrath. To defy them was unthinkable. But then he looked back at the girl. She stood still, her small hand gripping his wife's veil, her glowing eyes watching the skies without fear. Something stirred in him, something stronger than duty. He turned sharply. Prepare the starship. We leave now. The servants panicked as the family moved quickly through the palace halls. Some begged them to stay and surrender. Others fled, fearing the enforcers' wrath. But the husband's voice thundered, "Clear the hangar. Anyone who betrays us will answer to me." None dared stop him. In the hangar, the family's private vessel waited, a sleek craft of silver and blue built for speed rather than war. The engines roared as they boarded. The girl sat between her parents, silent but calm as if she already knew what was coming. The gates of the palace cracked open. Soldiers in black armor poured inside, their weapons glowing. But the starship lifted before they could reach it. The husband pushed the controls with steady hands, guiding the vessel into the sky. The chase began. The warships turned, their cannons glowing red. Blasts of energy cut through the air, shaking the city towers. The husband twisted the ship, diving between buildings, weaving through narrow streets in the sky. The wife held the girl tight, whispering prayers under her breath. Outside, the people watched in shock. The story of the human child had already filled their ears, and now they saw the truth with their own eyes. The rich couple defying the council, fleeing with the mysterious girl. Some cheered in secret, others cursed them, but none could stop what was unfolding. The starship raced past the edge of the city, but the council's warships followed like predators. The husband's hands moved swiftly across the controls. His voice was sharp. They will not stop. They will follow us to the ends of the galaxy. The wife's voice rose above the roar of the engines. Then let them follow. We will not give her up. The girl leaned forward, her glowing eyes fixed on the stars ahead. She spoke softly, yet her voice carried through the cabin. I know the way. Both parents turned to her. What way? The husband asked. The girl's hand lifted, pointing toward the dark belt of asteroids beyond the city's orbit. There, safe. The husband hesitated. The asteroids were a deadly zone, filled with shattered rocks and storms of fire. Few pilots dared enter, but the girl's eyes held certainty. Against his fear, he obeyed. He steered the ship into the belt. The warships followed, firing blasts that shattered asteroids around them. The vessel shook violently, alarms screaming. The wife closed her eyes, holding the child as dust and fire rained outside the windows. Then something strange happened. The asteroids that threatened to crush them began to shift. Rocks drifted aside, creating a narrow path just wide enough for their ship to pass. The husband stared in shock. This is impossible. The girl's eyes glowed brighter. She whispered, "Not impossible, mine." Realization struck both parents. She was guiding the path. The child's strange powers reached beyond flesh and bone, touching the very space around them. The asteroids obeyed her, opening the way to freedom. The ship burst through the last line of rocks, entering open space. The warships tried to follow, but the asteroids crashed back into place, sealing the path. Explosions rang out as two of the Council's vessels were smashed to pieces. The others pulled back, unable to pass. Silence filled the cabin. The husband exhaled, his hands shaking on the controls. The wife pressed her forehead against the child's, whispering through her tears, "You saved us." But the girl did not smile. Her glowing eyes dimmed and she whispered softly, "They will not stop. They will come again." The husband nodded grimly. "She is right. We cannot return. From this moment we are hunted." The wife held the girl tighter. "Then let them hunt. We will keep running until the stars themselves hide us." Outside the windows, the galaxy stretched wide and endless, full of danger and hope. The chase was not over. It had only begun. And in the highest tower of the council, the judges watched in silence. The oldest among them spoke, his voice like cold iron. "The hybrid child grows stronger. If she lives, she will break our laws, our order, our power. She must not survive." 1,000 warships began to stir, engines waking across the stars. The family was free for now, but the galaxy itself was closing in. The chase did not last forever. For days, the silver starship drifted across the black sea of space, hiding in the shadows of dead moons and broken stations. The husband barely slept, guiding the ship through dangerous routes. The wife cared for the girl, feeding her, wrapping her in silks, whispering words of comfort. The child stayed calm, but her glowing eyes never dimmed. At last, their luck ended. On the 7th day, a net of blue light spread across the void, trapping their vessel. Engines died. Alarms screamed. Before the husband could move, warships surrounded them, black and sharp like blades of night. The council had found them. The family was dragged to the great chamber of judgment. The hall was vast, with walls of dark stone and banners of gold, glowing with the council's sigils. At the center stood the high circle, 12 judges in robes of silver, their faces hidden behind masks of iron. Their voices echoed like thunder. The husband, the wife, and the child were placed before them, surrounded by enforcers with weapons drawn. The crowd of nobles and officials filled the balconies, watching with hungry eyes. Rumors had spread across the galaxy, and all wanted to see the truth for themselves. The hybrid child. The oldest judge spoke first, his voice like cold fire. "You stand accused of high crimes, harboring a human within our city, defying the council, fleeing arrest. Do you deny these charges?" The husband's jaw tightened. His golden eyes burned, but his voice was steady. "We do not deny them. But we tell you this, she is not only human. She is more." Murmurs filled the hall. The judges leaned forward. The wife stepped closer, holding the girl's hand. Her veil had been torn away and her face shone with tears, but her voice was clear and strong. "She is our daughter, taken from us by fate, returned to us by the stars. You may call it crime, but I call it destiny. You may call it law, but I call it love." The crowd gasped. Some whispered in shock. Others shook their heads. The judge's voice thundered again. "Enough. Love is not greater than law. Our laws keep order. Without them, there is only chaos. Hybrids are forbidden. They are a threat to all we built," the wife cried out, her voice breaking with rage. "Threat? Look at her. She is only a child. She bleeds, she breathes, she dreams as we do. Is it her fault she was born between two worlds?" The girl stood silently, her glowing eyes scanning the chamber. The crowd stirred uneasily. Some felt fear. Some felt awe. Another judge leaned forward, her iron mask gleaming. "The child carries both bloods. Such a being cannot belong to either world. She is danger. She must be erased." The wife screamed, falling to her knees, holding the girl tight. "No, you cannot take her."
"She is ours."
The husband's fists clenched. For years he had bowed to the council, served their word as law. But standing there, watching them condemn his family, something inside him snapped. His voice thundered across the chamber, stronger than the judge's own. Then your laws are broken. If your order demands the death of a child, it is no order worth keeping. If your justice cannot see innocence, it is no justice at all. The hall shook with gasps. Never before had one of the high families spoken so boldly against the circle. The enforcers raised their weapons, ready to strike. Then the girl stepped forward. Her small hand lifted, and the air itself seemed to tremble. The weapons shook in the hands of the enforcers. The torches on the walls flickered, bending toward her. Her voice rose, calm and clear, echoing like a bell across the chamber. You fear me because I am both. But I am not your enemy. I am your bridge. The hall grew silent. Even the judges froze, their iron masks turning toward her. The girl's eyes glowed brighter, brighter than the sun through glass. Memories filled the minds of those who looked into them. Memories of war between species, of endless blood, of hatred written into the stars. But then came visions of peace. Humans and aliens standing together, cities shining without walls, children of both worlds laughing in harmony. Gasps and cries filled the chamber. Some fell to their knees. Others covered their faces, unable to bear the weight of the vision. The wife held her breath, tears streaming as she watched. The husband's chest shook with both pride and fear. When the glow faded, silence fell. The oldest judge rose, his iron mask trembling with anger. Illusions, tricks. The child seeks to blind us. We cannot allow her to live. But even as he spoke, voices rose from the balconies. Nobles, officials, and servants alike cried out. Some shouted for her death, but many shouted for mercy, for hope, for change. The chamber broke into chaos. The enforcers stood uncertain. The judges struck their staffs, trying to silence the storm of voices, and in the center of it all, the girl stood calmly, her hand still glowing faintly. She looked at her parents, her small voice barely louder than a whisper. They cannot decide for me. My path is already written. The husband's heart froze. The wife clutched her tighter. The trial was not over. But in that moment, everyone in the chamber knew. The child was no longer just a lost daughter, no longer just a forbidden hybrid. She had become something greater, a choice, a spark, a future that could either save the galaxy or burn it to ashes. The chamber of judgment was shaking with noise. Voices clashed like storms. Some cried for mercy, others demanded blood. The council judges struck their staffs again and again, trying to restore order, but the people in the balconies would not be silent. For the first time in centuries, the high circle had lost control, and at the center of the storm stood the girl. Small, fragile, glowing, her presence silenced weapons, shook hearts, and carried a weight far greater than her years. The wife knelt beside her, tears streaming down her face, whispering over and over, "You are mine. Whatever they say, you are mine." The husband stood tall, his golden eyes burning with defiance. He had spent his life obeying laws, but now his voice was thunder. "You cannot kill her. If you do, you kill the chance of peace." The oldest judge rose, his iron mask gleaming. His voice cut through the chaos. "Peace? She is an abomination. If she lives, she will destroy us all." The girl lifted her head, her glowing eyes fixed on him. Her voice was soft, but it carried across the chamber like music. "No, I will not destroy. I will unite." Then it happened. Her small body shone brighter than before, light bursting from her skin. The ground trembled. The banners on the walls fluttered as if caught in a great wind. The air filled with visions again, but this time stronger, sharper, undeniable. The people saw two paths. One path showed her death, wars spreading across the stars, humans and aliens tearing each other apart, billions crying out in pain. The other path showed her life, humans and aliens standing together, building cities side by side, sharing knowledge, sharing love. The hall gasped as the visions filled their minds. Some fell to their knees weeping. Others shouted with joy. For the first time, they saw a future where the galaxy was not divided. The wife held the child's hand tightly, her voice trembling. "She is not a curse. She is hope." The husband stepped forward, his voice strong. "You built these laws out of fear. You told us hybrids would bring war. But this child shows us truth. The stars have chosen her. Will you blind yourselves to destiny?" The judges looked shaken. Even behind their iron masks, doubt cracked their voices. One of them whispered almost against his will, "She carries both bloods. and yet she shines. But the oldest judge would not bend. He struck his staff on the floor, his voice burning with rage. No child decides the fate of the galaxy. If we let her live, she will tear our order apart.
Kill her now!
Enforcers raised their weapons. The crowd cried out in horror. The wife screamed, wrapping her arms around the girl. The husband moved to shield them both, his golden eyes blazing with fury. But before the first shot could fire, the girl stepped forward. Her glow grew so bright it swallowed the chamber in white light. The enforcers froze, their weapons falling from their hands. The judges staggered back, blinded, and then the girl spoke, not in one voice but in many. A chorus, as if the stars themselves spoke through her. I am not your end. I am your beginning. My blood is the bridge. My life is the choice. If you destroy me, you destroy yourselves. If you protect me, you save your future. The chamber fell silent. The light faded slowly. The girl stood still, breathing softly, her glow dimming back into her small frame. The wife clutched her close, trembling with both fear and awe. The husband looked at the judges, his voice sharp. You have heard her. The choice is yours. Silence stretched long and heavy. At last, one of the judges lowered his staff. Then another. And another. One by one, most of the high circle bowed their heads. Only the oldest judge remained standing, his iron mask trembling with anger. This will destroy everything, he hissed. But even his voice shook with doubt. The wife rose, her tears shining. No, this will save everything. The crowd erupted. Many shouted for the girl to live, to be protected, to be honored as a symbol of peace. Others still cried for death, but their voices were drowned. The storm had shifted. The husband lifted the girl into his arms, his golden eyes wet for the first time in years. The wife pressed her forehead against the child's. And in that moment, it did not matter what the council decided. They knew the truth. She was not only their lost daughter. She was not only a hybrid. She was something more. As the family embraced, the girl whispered her final words, soft but powerful. The stars have chosen me. Her eyes glowed again, not with fear, but with destiny. And across the galaxy, in the hearts of billions who would hear her story, a seed of hope was planted. The trial had ended, but the true story was only beginning.